Well, boys and girls, the transfer window is officially closed. And you know what that means? No more Todd Boehly excessive spending, no more Brighton abducting Ecuadorian children, and no more Fabrizio Romano getting 3-hour sleeps every 2 weeks.
Here we know.
This has been one of the busiest transfer windows on record, not just in the Premier League, but across the globe. From Saudi Arabia's power moves, and Ansu Fati being in the same place as a beach made of stones. From top to bottom, this is the Premier League transfers tier list video. The top tier, here we go. Down in second, Transfer Masters. Not quite the perfect window, but still overall shrewd business. Average explains a lot. I ran out of creativity for that tier. We've got Bad Deal Bandits, and then right at the bottom, cataclysmic knee injury. If you're going to enjoy, slap a like on the vid, subscribe if you're new. Let's get into this. We start off, no, we don't start with Bournemouth. Stop doing this. We start off with Arsenal. They sold Rob Holding. It's a 10 out of 10 window.
Come on, mate. No.
Obviously, the ins here are Declan Rice for a British record fee for West Ham United. Jurrien Timber, who arrived from Ajax. Kai Havertz coming in for 65 mil. And then David Raya from Brentford. I'm not going to talk about youth signings that often. And then on the outs, you got Kieran Tierney going out on loan. Granit Xhaka going to Germany. Rob Holding, Tavares, and Balogun going back to Ligue 1. Now, first off, I think Jurrien Timber was a great signing. They have been so unlucky that he's out injured already, especially with an ACL. Actually, they probably should go in the knee injury section. But Declan Rice is a baller. We all knew that once he actually signed for a side that was going to be in the Champions League regularly, you'll find out within a couple seasons he's going to be an elite midfielder. Kai Havertz, he's not. I don't like him as a midfielder. He might prove me wrong, but I still don't think Arsenal replaced that Granit Xhaka role within the side. Raya is good goalkeeping competition. It's a shame that Balogun's gone. I would have liked to have seen him being given a chance this year. Gabriel Jesus was pretty decent last season, and Nketiah is good backup, but they still don't have that really clinical goal scorer that's going to take them to the next level, in my opinion. I'm going to put them in Transfer Masters. Aston Villa next. Yes. Tilemon, Pau Torres, Musa Diaby, otherwise known as the best footballer in the world. Nico Zaniolo from Roma, and Clement Longley. Now, what I will say is, replacing a man with a knee injury with absolutely no knees at all was a bold strategy from Aston Villa. But we'll see how it works as far as Zaniolo is concerned. He's a player that's always had great quality as a youngster. Diaby, I'm telling you now, is going to be contender for their player of the season. Musa Diaby is an unreal footballer. Losing Cameron Archer is a bit of a mistake, even though they do have a buyback clause. I think he would have been able to push Watkins this season. He's a great striker. I'm really happy with Aston Villa's work, I'm not gonna lie. I think I could genuinely put them in Here We Go. I think Aston Villa have had a very solid window. The only thing I will say is, because of their injuries, I'm not as confident they're gonna get into Europe this season now. Bournemouth. Now, don't sleep on Bournemouth. Alex Scott lit it up in the Championship last season. Sinistera and Adams, of course, got relegated with Leeds, but were standout performers. They've signed Kluivert, not that one, and then Kirkej as a young wing back, and Max Aarons over on the other side. These are good, intelligent signings, and like signings of youngsters as well that are going to develop and going to get better. I'm going to put them in Transfer Masters because I think they've secretly had a really good window. On to the bus stops now. Brentford next up. Canos left for Spain. Raya left for Arsenal. Tony left for William Hill. But it's been a pretty quiet window. Nathan Collins, good centre-back. He's coming from Wolves. I think that's more strength at centre-back. Flecken in. He did really well at Freiburg in the Bundesliga, and he's capped for the Netherlands at national team level. Couple of good signings there, but Mopé coming in on loan. No, I'm not. I know. I don't think they needed to buy someone to replace Ivan Toney, because I think Wisser and Burma will do enough. A quiet window. I'm going to put them in average. Flecken and Collins, I think, will do well for them. Mopé will do for them. He won't even do that. Now, though, ladies and gentlemen, Brighton. Oh, man, where do we fucking start with these lot? We'll start with the outs, really, I think. Alexis McAllister, obviously a big one to Liverpool, but the money they got for Moises Caicedo, this boy's done one season. That is bank fraud, mate.
Did you see what I did there?
It's a scam.
Obviously, Robert Sanchez has left as well, also to go to Chelsea. They brought in something like £200 million, which is unbelievable for the club, just generally speaking, not just about reinvesting into transfers. For the club itself, that amount of money is game-changing. And in terms of the signings, Dahoud, Julio, João Pedro, experienced all-rounder James Milner, Verbruggen as a replacement in goal, Ansu Fati obviously in on loan as well from Barca, and Baleba as a DM. Dahoud in on a free from the Bundesliga has already looked really good. James Milner, experience and versatility. Verbruggen is like a 19-year-old goalkeeper, made his debut, already looks pretty good. Ansu Fati struggled with injuries a lot for Barcelona. That's why he's at Brighton. But I think that as a loan move could be beneficial for him if he can get into the team. The depth they've been able to produce, and this is what it is about Brighton. They're so good at planning. Before they've even sold a player, they have the replacement ready in the wings. When they sold Trossard, they already had Mitoma, and when they lose Mitoma, they've got Enciso and Adingra and Buonanotte. It's crazy. It's like they spawn new players out of the depths of the old ones. They don't actually die. Just they're not dead. The only thing I'd argue is there's maybe a bit of a weakness at centre back, maybe, if I'm being super picky. They gotta go in. Here we go, man. So you've kind of got to rate Brighton's transfer windows in like season and a half, 18-month periods. Because again, like Enciso and Diesel, they brought a while ago. You're only just seeing them now. Even Gilmore's starting to get integrated into the team and have a big effect now. Next up, we have newly promoted Burnley, who I think have struggled a little bit more than people would expect. Then again, they've had some hard fixtures to start things off, including Man City and Tottenham. A few of their signings, they haven't made a lot of sense. I feel like they've brought a lot of wingers, a lot of forwards, and then have kind of maybe glossed over other areas of the team. Boyer was solid for them before. Trafford's a good goalkeeper. Sander Berge's a good signing from Sheffield United. Trezor, who they signed, his record in Belgium last year was crazy. And Koleosho, I think it is, the winger they signed from Spain, he looks pretty good too. Oh, well, he was playing in Spain. I don't think he's actually Spanish, but it's a lot of unknowns. It's a lot of players that don't have that much Premier League experience. I think once that gelling does happen, they'll look like a bit of a better side. They've scattergunned a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit harsh with average, but they're towards the front. I don't think there's anyone so far that's had a bad window. And then we get to Chelsea. I mean, how long have you fucking got, lads? Their medical centre this transfer window has been looking like an A&E department. If any player wanted an appointment with the physio, they've got to wait 3 to 5 business months. So here we go. We've got Nkunku, Nicholas Jackson, Ugo Chukwu, Dizazi, Robert Sanchez, Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia, Cole Palmer. Every South American youngster that was born between 1999 and 2005. Whoever's their chief negotiator needs a pay rise. Actually, no. He needs his pay cut because of the amount of money he's spending on these dons. Cole Palmer has 4 Premier League starts, you know, for 40 mil. Moises Caicedo, 115. I'm sure they'll go on to have success at the club, but the amount of money that's being flung about here is criminal. Then again, they managed to get rid of a lot of players, a lot of dead wood again. Kante, Koulibaly, Mendy, Kovacic, Havertz, Loftus-Cheek, Lukaku, Mount, Azpilicueta, Pulisic, Aubameyang, Kepa, Ziyech, Hall, Hudson-Odoi. I can't even, I've got a headache. There's a lot of dead wood there, but there's also a lot of players that I think would have been kind of useful as well. Because I look at their squad now, and £1 billion has been spent since Todd Boehly's come in. And on paper, anyway, the squad looks a bit weaker. Obviously, yeah, you got Thiago Silva, you got Enzo Fernandez, Raheem Sterling, Ben Chilwell, Reece James. But they were all players that were here before this transfer window. Nicholas Jackson looks good, even with his miss against Forest. Nkunku's obviously out injured. That's unfortunate. Ugo Chukwu is like a man mountain, but he's very good. But then other than that, it feels like a lot of money has been spent for players that either won't start or aren't starting. Maybe I'm being a bit naive and salty about Caicedo from that perspective. I'm sure he will improve them once he's bedded in a little bit. But I'm really I've either got to put them high or low, right? You know what? I feel like being reactive. I feel like having limited ball knowledge today, you know.
Today I feel disabled.
I'm putting them in bad deal bandits. They've ruined my fantasy football team by losing to Forest, so I don't care. I'm sorry, but like, this is the state of play, right? They've spent $1 billion. They have also brought in a lot of money, which I think people are forgetting. They've sold a lot of players. Whether you sell players or not, if you spend £1 billion and don't win the league, it's a failure. And they're not even close, mate. They might still finish in the Champions League. Once the team like sort of bonds together, gels together, it's changed a lot. Let's not get it twisted. Let's not forget that. Then again, we were saying that last season and they finished 12th. Crystal Palace, they've had a bit of a quiet one really in terms of ins and outs. Wilfried Zaha being the main deal, I think. But honestly, the biggest deal for them has been keeping Michael Olise. Zaha leaving was always going to happen, right, with Crystal Palace. But as long as they had 2 wingers that felt like they could fill that gap collectively, it's fine. And that is Eze and Olise. Obviously, they brought in Matheus Franca, a young Brazilian. They brought in Rob Holding. Dean Henderson is in for goalkeeping competence. competition. I think I'm going to put them in average, but again, it feels like quite a harsh one. Now, Everton. Oh, goodness gracious me, lads. You're in for a treat here. You know what? This might surprise people. It was going all right until deadline day. I mean, it wasn't. Ashley Young and Jack Harrison aren't going to keep them up. But Danjuma, all right. He's not started very well, but he's a good footballer. And Beto as well. I've seen him play like a couple times, and he looks like a very powerful striker that has like the finishing intelligence and the movement as well. They even managed to get rid of Mason Holgate and Neil Maupay. Nobody's going to miss them. But then, on deadline day, they sell Alex Iwobi for 20 mil to Fulham. You know, back in the day, getting 20 mil for Iwobi would have been crazy money. But Alex Iwobi is like top 2 of their best players that they have. So what are we doing here? Calvert-Lewin's out injured all of the time. I tweeted the other day, I think they've got about 5 Premier League quality players. It just stinks. Again, maybe Beto can be their saviour. Maybe he won't be. Maybe he'll be strolling back into his local KFC once Everton end up in the Championship. It's a catastrophe. I'm putting him in the bottom tier. Upper echelons of the bottom tier. Maybe it's not quite as bad of a knee injury, but they're out for a while. Just don't go to Chelsea's physio. He hasn't got time to schedule you in. Other side of Merseyside now, Liverpool. Our transfer window has been a very weird one. We've sold every single midfielder that we own, and then we've brought every midfielder that we own. Whilst Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott have just been driving around Merseyside.
You're gonna get the chopper on you, lad!
Let's talk about our outs first. Bobby Firmino, his time had probably come. Naby Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, we didn't have the funds to pay for their medical bills anymore. But then it comes to the other mids, and James Milner, we will miss him. You know, his presence in the changing room. Jordan Henderson, the same. And Fabinho, ultimately, these are players that have given us some of our best memories, but we're starting to be on the decline. To replace them, we brought in Alexis McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, Wataru Endo, and also Ryan Gravenberch on deadline day. Now, I think Gravenberch has saved this. Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones are great depth on top of Szoboszlai and McAllister. I'm not really sold on Endo yet, and we've got Bajcetic, but he's young. I honestly think we still needed a DM. I would have loved Lavia. I would have loved Caicedo, honestly. It's not terrible, though, because Szoboszlai might be on the road to fathering my children. He gives me Gerrard vibes already. I'm going to put us in average, and we could look back on this window in 2 years and say we moved on players that were aging, brought in younger versions, and they absolutely slapped. But I still think there was things that we could have done in this transfer window a little bit better. Luton Town next. Now, these guys are going to be borderline impossible to judge because I don't know what their actual aims are. Like, Luton have made some signings, all right? Sambi Lokonga's coming on loan, Ross Barkley as well, Anderson Kaminsky from Blackburn. It feels like they're planning for a future where they are probably back in the Championship, though, because they've almost brought together like an EFL Avengers team. If their aim is to just be stable, then I think they've done pretty well. I'm not gonna lie. They're not gonna survive, and I don't think they've purchased trying to survive, if that makes sense. Actually, no, fuck that. What logic is that? I'm putting them in bad deal bandits. To be honest, they could have signed more players. They just didn't know they were at the front door of the stadium. No doorbell, you see, so it's hard to... Manchester City now. If I'm a Man City fan, I'm not too worried. I'm a little bit worried by some of the holes that have been left, especially Ilkay Gundogan. Don't get it twisted. Man City have an unbelievable amount of talent, especially going forward. And you look at their back line, especially with Joshko Gvardiol in it now. But Gundo leaving, Mahrez leaving, Cole Palmer going as well. Then again, they brought in Jeremy Doku. They brought in Mateus Nunes as well. Kovacic has obviously come in too. I'm going to put them in transfer masters. It's easy to have a good window then when you have as much money as Man City. Manchester United. A busy team in this window. David De Gea out of there. His replacement, Andre Onana, who's looked questionable at times. Mason Mount in as well. Rasmus Højlund in. Then Sergio Reguilon in on loan. Sofiane Amrabat. And of course, the legend, the hero, Johnny Evans. Goodness. We're in a situation where United are playing him and Harry Maguire as a centre-back combination right now. They've been so unlucky with injuries, right? Varane, Lisandro, and Lindelof are now all injured at the same time. But how the fuck, in big old 2023, are United playing Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire at the back? Højlund, we can't judge yet, but £70 million seems a little bit excessive for a man that they hoped was Haaland, but there was just a photocopying error. Mason Mount has not started too convincingly, but again, it's kind of hard to judge. Has been a good player for Chelsea in the past, homegrown, all that jazz. I think he'll be an all right signing. Amrabat the same. I think they are getting together a good midfield there once it's all fit and operating properly. Reguilon, I don't think's that bad if he's going to be a backup left back once Luke Shaw's back from injury. and Onana's a crackhead, so at least we've got energy there. I'm gonna put them in average. I think people have been a little bit harsh on United's transfer window. They've got rid of a bit of deadwood, again, like Fred, like Elanga. If Erik ten Hag could maybe just stop signing his mates, that would be pretty helpful too. Newcastle now, another side or another team with a lot of money and a decent amount of investment, but kind of quiet in comparison. They're definitely not doing the scattergun approach that Man City used when they first got their oil money. The signings being Tonali, Harvey Barnes, and Tino Livramento, and Lewis Hall coming in from Chelsea. Livramento and Hall, good youth depth, I guess. Harvey Barnes should probably be starting, and Sandro Tonali's a baller. And they've played against some proper teams to start this year. So they have, like, let's not jump to conclusions too much, but maybe they are lacking in a little bit of depth, where if there is one injury to a main player, they look considerably worse. You know, if Tonali was to get an injury tomorrow, or Bruno Guimaraes was out for 4 months, Newcastle would look so much worse than they do now. I think I'm going to put them in transfer masters though, but towards the end, I think it's a good window for them. On paper, Barnes and Tonali will be ballers. Livramento and Hall are great signings for the future. On to Nottingham Forest now. I'm getting PTSD of last season and the 39 signings that they've made. They've actually got rid of some of those signings already, including Andre Ayew, Jesse Lingard, Freuler, Omar Richards, but the main one, the main loss for them is going to be Brennan Johnson. Now, have they replaced him? I mean, technically speaking, Anthony Elanga's in. I don't think they play on the same side, but in terms of wingers, and Callum Hudson-Odoi's joined. Brennan Johnson, obviously homegrown, hometown hero. It is a big loss for them. Omobama Dele in from Norwich. Montiel, a World Cup winner. I feel like that's gone under the radar. And I like Ola Aina as well. I think secretly Forest have actually had a pretty good window. Holding on to someone like Gibbs White, still having Awoniyi, and then also signing Elanga. That's an alright front three. Plus you got Danilo thrown in the mix. I'm going to say top end of average, but I'm probably being a little bit harsh there. Sheffield United, first part of the window, not good.
Yeah, they had us the first half. I'm not gonna lie. They had us.
But since I made that video on why they were doomed, they have made some actually pretty good signings. Gustavo Harmer is a baller. Vinny Souza looks good. Cameron Archer might be a solid source of goals coming in from Villa. Thomas from a relegated Leicester, and McAtee has actually rejoined them on loan after impressing and performing so well in their promotion campaign. Plus some others like Yasser Larouci and Ben Slimani will add a bit of depth. The main thing, again, is just the fact they lost Njai and Berger for cut price fees. That's going to hurt them not only in terms of how they do in the league, but also financially. Ultimately, a lot of this is relative, and I do think they've done a pretty good job in bringing themselves back, giving themselves actually a fighting chance to survive. I've seen them make better signings here, I think, than Luton in terms of trying to survive. So I think they've done an all right job, but losing Berger and Dye for those prices. You know what, lads? I don't think Sheffield United are going to have a huge amount to cheer about this season. I'm not going to put them in bad deal bandits. I'm going to put them in average. On to the final three. We start with Tottenham, who look as if they've actually planned a transfer window for the first time in about 6 years. Obviously, Harry Kane, the elephant in the room. He's a big loss going to Bayern Munich. They've lost 30 goals from the Premier League just like that. But if they put Heung-min Son in the 9 and James Maddison collabs well with him, they might have unlocked a madness here. The actual recruitment they have done looks like some of the smartest they've done in a while. Vicario shone for me in Italy in the games that I watched of him. I think that's an astute signing. Udogie as well has looked good. Van der Veen at centre-back hopefully is a bit of solidity alongside Romero that they've been lacking. Brennan Johnson and Manor Solomon provide a little bit of winger depth. Plus their biggest signing in the window, Ange Ball. Honestly, I'm going to give Tottenham some flowers. I think given the circumstances, I think they were forced into a corner really in losing Harry Kane. They were either going to lose him for free next season or lose him for 100 mil now. So they made the right decision in cashing in and getting that 100 million pounds now. So that's as good as that dilemma was ever going to get. And I think they've actually utilised that money and spent it pretty well on young players that are going to improve and young players that already look like they've improved the squad. I'm actually very impressed by Tottenham's window. And it's a similar deal for West Ham. Again, like Declan Rice was always going to leave at some point. I'm not going to judge them for selling their best player in this situation. It's different to Ndiaye because if Sheffield United had actually dealt with their contracts properly, they wouldn't have been backed into that corner. Or the Sander Berger situation where you've sold him to a direct rival. James Ward-Prowse and Edson Alvarez are going to be a really good double pivot together. Mohamed Kudus is a baller who's come in from Ajax. Mavropanos, Arsenal fans might remember him as a youngster. Pretty solid centre-back over in Germany. They've got rid of Scamaccia, who didn't want to be there. But the early signs are good. I'm going to put them in transfer masters again, like Tottenham. But ladies and gentlemen, we have saved the worst till last. It is Wolves. Oh, dear mother of God, lads. Being a Wolves fan right now must be a little bit of a madness. I'm not going to lie. They brought in Matt Doherty. They brought him home. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about the other 3 signings that they've made that I wrote down. Wolves fans, tell me what you think about those signings, because I would genuinely love to hear it. But I tell you, I have watched the players that they've got rid of. Obviously, Diego Costa didn't really work. João Moutinho getting on a bit. Conor Cody is obviously left permanently now. Adama Traore and Raul Jimenez have gone to Fulham. It's depth, but like I could understand it. But then Ruben Neves has gone to Saudi Arabia. All right, calm, whatever, as long as you replace him. Right? And that's the same with Matheus Nunes. Chiquinho's gone. Herve has gone. Collins has gone. Now, some of these players, Wolves fans might argue, weren't starting, but their depth. Collins was starting. He's got Neves. I mean, Nunes, I don't know. And it just seems like they've not been replaced, like, whatsoever. There was a bit of depth there, like Hwang Hee-chan. You've got Pedro Neto as well in wide areas. What's the small Donny called? Podence, flipping. Don't get twisted. There's still good players at Wolves. I've mentioned a few of them there. I like Max Kilman at the back. Jose Sarr's a good goalkeeper when he actually wants to be. But I am genuinely concerned for them because I think they've lost like 3 very quality players and not replaced a single one of them, whilst also not strengthening in other areas either. It is a cataclysmic knee injury for Wolves. I am very sorry. And the worst of the lot there, though, is the tier list for today. We've got Aston Villa and Brighton in the top tier. I feel like I was a lot more generous at the start of this video to when it ended. In the second tier, I think Arsenal, Bournemouth, Man City, Newcastle, Tottenham, and West Ham have had good windows. Like Nottingham Forest, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Burnley, Brentford, Man United, and Sheffield United have by no means had a bad window, but probably could have done a little bit more to address problems within their side. Bad deal bandits, we got Luton and Chelsea. And then down at the bottom, the absolute catastrophes, Everton and Wolves. But let me know what you think of this down in the comment section. Who do you support and what do you make of your transfer window? If you've enjoyed this one though, feel free to slap a like on it and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.